What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Blazers Uprise Live here on a Thursday evening. We're going to talk some playoff action today. We're going to talk about what the Jake L. Fisher article means for the Portland Trail Blazers. I will have a video tomorrow touching on more of that, so I probably won't go in as much depth as Eric, but I'll have a video tomorrow rambling about that, rambling about some things in regards to that, and then the special fun video that I was going to drop tomorrow, I'm going to put that off a couple days. I'm going to put that off till Sunday. Saturday I got a mock draft, so that's what we have on tap for today. We'll talk about Utah. They lost tonight. We'll talk about Toronto. They're down 3-0 after a Joel Embiid game winner. And we'll talk some playoff action. The Memphis Grizzlies and Minnesota Timberwolves played a very intriguing game today. A game of runs, you might say. Anyway, what's going on, Eric? How you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I just played Rex. So Thursday streams might end up going live a little bit later than Monday streams because I have Rec League Tuesday, Thursday, and it goes to 9. So got home a little late, and that's why stream's going live a little bit later. So just be prepared on Thursdays. I had somebody message me right when we were about to go live asking me for the stream, so I just plugged it in their DMs. But yeah, Thursdays might be a little bit later. It just depends. I can't go on the stream all sweaty. Okay, I just can't do it. I don't think anybody would really notice, and I'm like glistening anyway. I'm sweaty, and it's just, the ring light, and just I showered, I'm clean. I'm not about to come on stream all sweaty and stuff, so that's why. I'm anyway. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, what's going on, man? What do you want to talk about first? We can take some questions tonight. We haven't really interacted with chat. The last stream, we talked about Jeremy Grant and how it sounds like he's going to be a Portland Trail Blazer. And I don't know. I didn't really have a plan for after the intro. So what do you want to talk about, Eric?
Well, Delusional Blazers fan asked, how was your game?
How was my game? I'm dead tired. I am not in good enough shape, and today was one of those days where the legs were dead, and I'm still kind of recovering. So I got my Gatorade. They came out with a new type of Gatorade. I haven't tried this yet. It says it's cherry lime with watermelon and sea salt. So yeah, the Gatorade always has these different types of Gatorades that are like nothing new. It's just a different marketing label, and I still will just buy it just to see if it tastes any different. So we'll see. But yeah, legs were dead today. You played at all lately?
No, it's been a couple months since I touched a ball.
Oh man, you're not going to be ready for Dro.
Yeah, I'm going to ball next week. Once again, if anyone wants to meet up with us to play next week, or at least me and Dro, hit me up on Twitter or Discord or whatever, and we'll let you know when we are headed out to play.
Nice.
Hopefully
I'll see if I can make it. Yeah. Dro's only coming down in town for Thursday and Friday. And Fridays, obviously, with DoorDash and Uber Eats, that's when I, gotta work in the evenings, and then Thursdays I have my rec league. But you guys said you're playing, Thursday at 4? I might be able to make it down. But you're playing in Hillsboro?
I don't know where we're going to play yet, but he's out here on the west side staying with someone, and he's actually staying Wednesday through Sunday, or Saturday, but he can't ball the first night, and he's leaving too early to ball on Saturday. So
yeah. I mean, I want to show up just so I can show Dro up for all that crap he's been talking. Hopefully my guy Chiefin shows up too. Probably not, but we'll maybe let somebody else know. I don't know what your play was for that, but we'll definitely get some pickup runs this summer. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, what's going on, chat? Hopefully you guys are having a good night. Let's just jump into playoff action. So there was 3 games today. One is Denver Golden State. I know that was a close game. I haven't seen the score as of late. Is that game still going on right now?
No, it's a final. Warriors held them off and won, and are now up 3-0.
Yep, Jordan Poole's been playing phenomenal. He ended up having 27 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds, 9 for 13 shooting for them. So he's been breaking out. This could have been Ant-Man if we had a good year. But if we had a good year, we wouldn't have traded CJ, and Ant probably wouldn't have gotten the opportunity. So hopefully this is Ant next year, where everybody's like, oh my goodness, they have another Dame. He's a breakout star. Every all the talk I'm seeing about Jordan Poole, I'm just envisioning that being Ant next year. I'm ready for it. Hopefully Ant's ready for it. But Steph Curry came off the bench?
He's been coming off the bench because he came back from injury and is on a minutes restriction. So, yeah, he's been playing.
You're out of it. Bro, why is he coming off the bench? I haven't been watching that series because that's such a mismatch. Denver can't guard him.
He didn't want to disrupt how well the starters are playing, and he is fine coming off the bench. He didn't care, so.
Okay, that's so weird. I was like thinking that was Seth Curry just because I saw it on the bench, and then I remembered it was Golden State. Yeah, that's weird to see. But 27 from Steph off the bench, and then Klay Thompson 26 in the starting lineup. So Denver, I think it's just a situation where them being down 3-0, probably getting swept, isn't really going to change much. They're obviously missing Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, they definitely have the injury excuse again this year. So
yeah, unfortunately, those guys couldn't get back.
We lost to them last year still.
Yeah.
They've been swept twice probably since then.
Yeah, dude, they're 0-7 since they beat us at Game 6 at home. That was such a debacle. I still don't know how we lost that freaking series. But this series isn't really relevant for the Blazers. Memphis is up 2-1 against Minnesota. This was a wild game. Memphis was down 25 two separate times. They were down 25, cut it to 7? And then we're down 25 again and came all the way back. In the second and fourth quarters, Minnesota scores 12 points in each. And then in the first and third quarters, Minnesota scored 39 and 32 points. So you see the upside, they just couldn't consistently hold it together in this game. And I think this was a game they needed to win. This is really a momentum blow, choking 2 25-point leads.
And Cat disappeared in this one, too. Unfortunate.
8 points for Cat? He had 5 blocks. That's good. But 8 points for Cat. 4 shots in 33 minutes.
4 shoots.
How's that? 4 shoots?
Yeah.
Is that what I said?
No, that's what Nurkic tweeted out.
Oh.
Something like, how does Cat only get 4 shoots?
I assume, so obviously with the rec, I wasn't able to watch this game. I assume Jaren Jackson Jr. was doing a good job on him defensively. He has length and size and good feet, so he's a good matchup to throw up against Cat. So I just didn't know if I don't trust Memphis to play consistently, and we never really did a playoff preview because the day we were going to do it was the day we lost the Pelicans pick, and obviously we just raged that whole stream. Phenomenal stream, by the way. I watched it back the other day and enjoyed it. Enjoyed listening to us being pissed off. Kind of weird, but I don't necessarily trust Memphis to make a run to the finals because they're a transition team. They rely so much on transition offense and early offense and getting out, and I don't know if I trust them in the half court and kind of a slow it down, slug it out playoff game, which the playoffs tend to be more of. So after they lost that game 1 to Minnesota, and then when they were down big, I checked the score and they were down big. I don't know. I mean, Minnesota still has a chance in this series, but I don't know if I trust Memphis in the second round, especially with how Golden State looks.
Yeah, but fortunate for them, it looks like several teams actually are going to get some injury luck with Devin Booker going down for 2 to 3 weeks, most likely, and also Chris Middleton on the other side of the bracket being out 3 to 4 weeks. Just
do you think?
Crazy.
Do you think the Pelicans have a chance to win? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Pelicans can pull off this upset with the Suns missing D-Book?
I think they have like a 40% chance of winning. So decent, but not. I still think the Suns are the favorites.
See, I'd go half that. I think they'll win one more game. I think they lose in 6. I don't trust them, man. That's the thing is they won game 2. They put 125 on the board.
Mm-hmm.
The Suns still scored well without Devin Booker and had him the majority of that game. But they have other guys that can step up and score. They have like a team offense, and Chris Paul running the thing. They played well without Chris Paul this season. Didn't play as well without Devin Booker. But I still think defensively they'll be able to get it done. I don't think they're going to have as bad of a game as they had in Game 2. I think they're going to come out in Game 3 and clamp up. CJ is getting used to the Dame treatment in the playoffs. Here's the thing with CJ, though, and we'll get into this because obviously we're going to talk about that article. He's making it easier on Brandon Ingram. Because Brandon Ingram would be getting the Dame treatment right now. The double teams, all the looks. They don't have another guy that could step up and provide offense if Brandon Ingram's being guarded like that. But since they have CJ McCollum, and CJ McCollum's getting a ton of defensive attention, and you look at this stat sheet the first couple games, and CJ hasn't been the most efficient guy, but he's taking that number 1 role and taking that off of Brandon Ingram, and I think it's opening things up for Brandon Ingram to be able to have some good games in the playoffs, as a number 2 guy compared to the number 1 guy.
Yeah, that's why I said 40%, a little higher than you, because Ingram and CJ are certainly capable. Those are 2 players that could take over a game and win them for them, and if those guys are missing shots, they have 2 guys in Valanciunas and Larry Nance that are absolutely wreaking havoc on the board. So They can stay in a lot of games even if those guys are off. But we've seen it with both those guys in the past. It just takes one of them to get hot, and they can win any game against this in the series now that Booker's out, which they could probably go off and the Suns could still win with Booker, but they're going to have to find a way to slow those guys down.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one series, or the one game today that I think mattered to the league, not necessarily to Portland, but Utah is not looking good. Luka Doncic has missed all 3 games, and Utah's down to Dallas 2-1.
That's sad, man.
They lost at home to Dallas. They let them score 126 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really watched any of this series, but last year there was talk about Rudy Gobert just not being able to get it done defensively in the playoffs. Multiple Defensive Player of the Year winner, and he can't carry this defense in the playoffs, it seems, because you're talking about a Dallas Mavericks team without Luka that puts 126 points on the board in altitude in Salt Lake City. Brunson, 31 points. He's going to get a freaking bag. I said I don't... What did I say about him that was kind of down on him lately? About him maybe not being the number one guy and being able to carry this Dallas team in this playoff series? I think I said something like that.
Yeah, I said he could, and you said he...
I was wrong.
He wasn't like that, yeah.
I was wrong. The dude has been carrying this freaking team. I'll sit here and say 12 for 22 today. 31 points, 5 assists. Props to Jalen Brunson. Good job. Dinwiddie couldn't make a shot today. Had 20 points, but was 6 for 21. It's basically Jalen Brunson has stepped up for Luka, and you love to see that. And he's going to get paid, I think, over $20 million a year. Yeah. I think Detroit's going to trade Jeremy Grant to us, take that savings, and try and sign Jalen Brunson to a $25 million a year deal. Might be an overpay. Matches? I think ESPN, shut up. I don't want to listen to your music. Let me mute the whole browser page. Sorry. Just autoplay as full. I muted it too. I don't understand. I think they do. They don't have the assets to lose a guy like that. Mm-hmm. Right? They don't have their 2023 first-round pick, correct? That's going to New York for Porzingis.
Yep.
And then they traded Porzingis for Dinwiddie and Bertans, who I don't think either of those guys have any trade value. Dinwiddie's kind of worked out for them, but, I mean, today it's you look at him, 20 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, 3 steals. That's nice, but he's 6 for 21. And he's not the best defensive player. So they're not really... I don't think they're going to be able to flip those guys for anything. They are actually in a bad position salary-wise because they're paying Dwight Powell $11 million a year next year. They're paying Finney Smith $12 million next year. Dinwiddie's $20 mil. Brunson could be $25 mil. Bertans is going to be $16 mil. Bullock's $10 mil. And then you got Luka as well making... He's still on his rookie contract, correct? Next year?
No, I think he jumps.
Oh, yeah, he jumps. Yeah, because it's 4th year.
Yeah.
So he's going to be making a max contract. He's going to be making a bag.
I think he qualified for the Supermax, too. Assuming he gets an All-NBA team, which he will.
So Dallas is in this position where they... And this is important to the Blazers, and this is why I'm going in depth on this, because there is a potential avenue for some relief if Jeremy Grant doesn't work out for Portland. If you're Dallas, Mark Cuban's rich. You know what I mean? Mark Cuban's the owner. If it was a different owner, I would be more worried considering all the salary they're paying next year. Obviously, every owner is rich, so it's not just Mark Cuban, but Mark Cuban is very competitive. I don't think he has any problem paying a bunch of luxury tax because he's very heavily emotionally invested in his team. Great. I shouldn't say great owner because he's had a lot of issues with conduct and stuff in their front office that I shouldn't forget about. That I can't necessarily let slide, but he's invested in his team trying to win games. So I think even if their payroll's far into the tax next year, I think they'll match on him. And they can't afford to lose him. They don't have assets like that.
Yeah. Those that want Jeremy Grant would probably be worried about this, but there are some possibilities of a Brunson for Jeremy Grant type move, or I could see them even giving up Sadiq Bey or something. That makes a lot more sense to me for Dallas, especially if we help them clear salary to where they don't have to trade that out.
I mean, but what you said on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think Dallas gives him up to pay Jeremy Grant $20 million for a year and then like a big risk of him leaving if he doesn't want to be there. And I don't see Detroit being willing to give up Sadiq Bey and Jeremy Grant for Jalen Brunson. I just don't really understand that for them. So there is potential things there, but I'm almost curious if, say we trade for Jeremy Grant, use the trade player exception, trade the Milwaukee 2025 first and Keon Johnson. I almost wonder if there's a situation where we could trade Bledsoe and maybe like Luzada for Bertans, who's a terrible contract, and then maybe a Bullock. And then you get the 26th pick back, which Dallas has in this year's draft. And then maybe you can draft a Koloko or someone. Or you can try and package 26 and 36 and trade up. Or 26 instead of the Milwaukee first. Maybe Detroit would want that a little bit more. Just an idea to pitch out there.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, we'll talk about this more in a minute, but it sounded like we weren't even sure if the Pistons would accept the New Orleans lotto pick for Grant. So I don't know how much that's going to factor in. Like you said, we might have leverage, but I don't know if Detroit will look at it that way.
I mean, didn't you say that Grant had goodwill with Detroit? Doesn't that come into play at some point?
I mean, he does, but at the same time, there aren't many times where if they could get a better offer or a significantly better offer from somewhere else, that they would just be like, oh, you know what, we're just going to take this. That's not how sports work, really.
Yeah, I just don't think, if it's true that Jeremy Grant wants to go to Portland and doesn't want to go somewhere else, then I don't, because he wants to play with Dame. Him and Dame are really tight. And it seems like, as you said, Jeremy Grant changed his mind on that. I just don't see another team with that in mind coming way over the top. And it's like, how is that other team going to save Detroit money? Because that's part of the deal. If you're giving up Keon Johnson in the 2025 Milwaukee first, you're also giving Detroit like $18 million in terms of cap space savings to go after a Jalen Brunson, to go after guys. So that is a part of the positive in that sort of trade. That's part of the value for Detroit. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. If they want to operate like they're over the cap, then they'd have, I don't know if they have a smaller TPE to take on Keon Johnson, but they'd have an $18 to $21 million trade player exception that they get for Jeremy Grant that they could work with. So it would provide them with the magic word, Eric, cap space flexibility. But so I don't know. We'll see. But instead of speaking about Dallas, let's talk about Utah. So, do you think Mitchell or Gobert gets traded this offseason? What do you think, assuming Utah loses the series, because it sounds like Doncic is going to come back in the series at some point, and Utah can't even beat Dallas without Doncic. Do you think that they go full rebuild? Do you think that they try and go the retool route? Or do you think they run it back once again? Kind of like the situation where Portland was in for a few years, just running back with the same core and keep losing in the first round. Thing is, we made the Western Conference Finals, so they haven't even gotten that far.
Mm-hmm. They couldn't even beat a Kawhi-less Clippers team last year. I think you gotta trade one of them, right? At least one of them.
Which one do you think it would be?
I don't know, but I don't see a scenario where they lose the series and just run it back next year. And yeah, I mean, that's so tough because I don't know. I think it's probably easier to trade Mitchell, but Mitchell's probably better to build around if you're trying the retool route too. So, yeah. I'm guessing they'll try to trade Gobert first, but they'll ultimately trade Mitchell because he's going to garner a team like Detroit, like you mentioned, or the Knicks or someone like that are going to overpay for him, and I think that'll just be too much for them to give up. Now, whether they trade Gobert on top of that might depend on if they get the right pieces back that fit with Gobert or not in that trade. if it's all like first round picks or something, I would just blow it all up and start over. And now that the other factor here is Danny Ainge is back, and we know he's not afraid to trade players for picks and go the retool route or rebuild route. So I know he doesn't have full control of the personnel or whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did a full teardown. But I also wouldn't be surprised if they just tried to build around one of them and kept going. But I just don't see how you can bring back both of those guys on the same team with all the rumors about how they don't like each other for years. And they tried to make it work, and it does not work.
Here's what's intriguing to me, okay? I'm going to pull up good old Tankathon, Eric. I wonder if Utah, assuming this continues to go bad for them, I wonder if they'd be willing to swap Mitchell for Ivy and just being bad for a couple years to try and get more top draft picks and building around a Jaden Ivey, and then trying to move Gobert as well for something else, right? I wonder if a top 3 pick gets it done for Donovan Mitchell. And, maybe you have to throw in a filler, but on top of that, I wonder what teams would be willing to trade a top 3 or 4 pick for Donovan Mitchell.
I think the Knicks would.
Yeah, I think the Knicks would too. That would be a very New York Knicks thing to do. Maybe Charlotte? I'm just going to simulate this. Like Charlotte, maybe like LaMelo, Mitchell, they move off Rozier and move him to the bench. If one of their picks move up, and then they have the 15th pick as well to sweeten the pot a little bit more if they need to.
The chances their pick goes up are pretty slim, though.
Yeah, I just doing sims. Like, I think maybe Detroit would be interested. I don't know why. I just feel like they'd be the team where it's like, okay, we got Cade, and we got cap space, and let's just do an accelerated rebuild. Mm-hmm. Because that's the thing. You can't rule out really anybody. Like, I can see Houston with Christian Wood and Jalen Green maybe wanted to do an accelerated rebuild and thinking, okay, we're going to bring in Donovan Mitchell and then try and maintain cap space because Christian Wood's on a solid contract and just trying to land another start through free agency, and then we're back. Maybe Sacramento because they've been trying to get to the playoffs for so freaking long.
What about the team below them?
The Pelicans? Oh, that would be depressing. Oh, God. Did that...
Because we know this from doing 800 mocks or sims, right? They often moved up into the top 4. I wonder if they would go for it all and go for Mitchell versus
CJ Mitchell, Ingram, Zion.
Actually, if you're the Pelicans, would you rather have? Let's just say it was the same trade package for both. Would you rather have Mitchell or Gobert? Because I'm assuming Valanciunas would probably have to be in it for salary and matching purposes.
If it's Gobert, I'm worried about them just being in the same position Utah is in now defensively in the playoffs. So I'd almost rather just go Mitchell and just make sure you're absolutely elite offensively than just trying to get good enough on defense and like find a setter. Maybe it's not Valanciunas, maybe it is, or maybe they have to include Valanciunas in the trade for salary reasons. I don't really know their salary state, but I'd probably rather go Mitchell.
Yeah.
Would you?
That's tough because I feel like a Herb Jones, Rudy Gobert type duo for defense would make them a top 5 defense, even with their how good they'd be offensively as well.
Well, here's the thing: they have so many future picks. Yeah. Maybe they trade for. I don't think the salary could work, but
that'd be insane.
I mean, Valanciunas and Nance is like $28 million, and
I don't
then
think they'd have to include
Graham
and Ingram. I don't know if they.
They don't have so many future picks, dude. I mean, if you're
Temple's $5 million.
If you're Utah and you just want to hit the rebuild button and you can get like a top 4 pick and then a bunch of future firsts and you just rebuild like OKC.
Yeah.
Right? You just don't have SGA. You just have whoever you draft with the top 4 pick. Your SGA might be Jaden Ivey. Here's another team, though. Washington, if they keep Beal. I think that's a weird backcourt because neither one is necessarily looked at as like a point guard, but I could see Washington. They got Porzingis. And, I don't know what their plan is with Rui, but he played really good when he played this year. And they have Avdia. Like, I could see them thinking, okay, Mitchell, Beal, and Porzingis, what a big three that is.
That's so weird.
I don't think Portland, I don't think would. But Washington, New York, Sacramento, and New Orleans.
Charlie brings up a DeJounte Murray, Donovan Mitchell backcourt. That would be intriguing.
I don't know what the Spurs' plan is, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying like that.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking out loud, not even in regards to that. It's just like, what is their plan? Because they're too good to end up in the top 8, it seems like. Mm-hmm. They have some pieces, but they got to find a star and a fringe star. Like, they got to make the trade that New Orleans made this year for CJ, they got to find that sort of trade. That's a value trade for a high-caliber player. And I don't know. I don't think you're going to get as good a value as New Orleans got on that trade.
Yeah. I wonder, I got to expect Utah would try to make whatever team trading for Donovan also take on Conley if possible, because that's going to look like a horrible contract over the next couple of years.
No, you know what they probably do? Well, I wonder if I could see Dallas trading Bertans and Bullock and another salary piece to match for Conley.
Well, that depends on Brunson, I guess, because if Brunson stays, they don't really need him. But Brunson, if they move on from Brunson because he gets too big of an offer, I think, yeah.
I mean, they'd probably bring Conley off the bench and play him together a little bit, which probably isn't the best defensively.
At like $25 million. Or
yeah, Dinwiddie's like 6'5", though. Like, he has the size to play, like, be considered a shooting guard. So, I don't know. I mean, they don't need Bertans or, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's why I'm thinking that is because, like, Bullock and Bertans, just guys that are just completely inconsequential, and you get a vet like that off the bench. Maybe Dallas would do that type of move. I mean, it's not as crazy as Porzingis for Dinwiddie and Bertans. So, maybe Dallas would do something like that, but yeah, it's interesting with Mitchell, man. I just don't think Mitchell or Gobert comes into play for Portland at all.
Yep. And I challenge you guys, if you see anyone talking about getting those guys on Twitter, just ask, what are we giving up for them? And if they say, I don't know, they're not informed, because it's hard for us to match salary in those. Like, Torrey can come up with some creative ways, but most people who throw those out there are not coming up with those
they don't know the CBA well enough to to come up with the method on how to actually accomplish that. They just say that to say that.
Fire sale in Utah. Oh, Gobert would be nice in Portland. Mm-hmm. Bring him home.
Yep.
Okay, so how do you
trade Nurkic for him? This is an interesting lottery sim, Eric. Portland, San Antonio, Washington. You know why it's interesting? What trade do you think I have in my mind right now?
With the top 3?
Just what trade? I think you can probably figure it out.
Well, I'm guessing you have a Rui type trade.
What trade? What do you think it is? Say it for me. Say my thoughts.
I don't know. 3 Rui and something else for 1.
I was just gonna say 1 for 3 and Rui.
Okay. I don't think that's enough, especially since 3 is likely going to be Banchero, and that's Rui and Banchero are very.
I don't think
it's similar players.
I'm not sold on 3 being Banchero. Yeah. I think Banchero could go 1 or 2.
That's true.
I've seen mock drafts with Jabari at 3. And I don't think they're like necessarily plugged in or anything, but I've seen a lot of Jabari at 3 lately. Yeah. I think it's still a toss-up between the top 3. It feels like Chet is slightly becoming the favorite for number 1. Would you agree with that?
No, it's pretty split on most of the stuff I've seen.
It's still split, but it's slightly skewing towards Chet. Like, ESPN has him projected number 1. I've seen few other mock drafts that seem to be inconsistent with him as number 1. But I also saw a mock draft today that had Portland drafting at 6 and getting him. So I don't know. That mock draft was just dumb.
I've also seen drafts with Ousmane Dieng going like 8, and I've also seen him going like 40. And so it's like so dumb.
I mean, Ousmane Dieng going 8 would be kind of like Chet or Josh Giddey's rise last year.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit more meteoric rise,
him
but
and Dyson Daniels, I think both are in that category.
I like Jang. I don't know if I have him top 10. That's a bit of a stretch, but I think 11 to 20 he's fine in that range.
Yeah, he's like a team pick, but like I don't get anyone who says he's going to go like 37 or something,
Yeah, I don't understand that either. You do like a guy with that creativity with the ball, that fluidity and that size and passing flashes and defensive flashes as well. Like he could end up being a really good defensive player as well. Watching some tape on him, he kind of reminded me a little bit of Nick Batum.
Yeah.
Those types of players are good don't go in the second round.
Still?
Yeah, Jang.
Yeah, he's I mean like kinda. I just like his defense is so far away from Batum's, it's hard to compare the two.
You think his defense is bad?
It's pretty bad right now, yeah.
I mean, I don't think it projects as bad though.
Maybe.
I think he'll be put it on. We need a whiteboard or something.
Scroll down.
What?
It was Tankathon.
Where's he at? 34. Oh, he rose to 30. Oh, he almost fell to our second round pick. Yeah, he's not going for it.
That'd be so crazy.
He's not going 34. There's no chance. He'll rise. Laravia's been rising. I feel like he could go late first, like Aldama did last year. We need to like mark down our draft predictions as of now and just see where they go. But if somebody has like Jang, I think is in the Agbaji, Sohan, Eason tier.
Rahi reminded me of CBS's mock draft from today that had us taking Ty Washington at 6.
Dude, CBS has the worst mock drafts.
I know.
Okay. CBS and NBADraft.net, their mock drafts are comedic. You want to go to NBADraft.net and just see what kind of crap they have now? Maybe they start doing better. Let's go to NBADraft.net.
Like Blake Wesley at 7 type stuff.
Johnny Davis at 5. Jaden Ivey at 1. We take Keegan Murray at 6. Malachi Branham at 10. I wouldn't be surprised, but who's missing from this? Shaden Sharp, we get him at 15.
Wait, what?
We get Shaden Sharp at 15.
How do we have 15?
We just do.
The wrong team.
I know.
What the heck?
Yeah, we get Shaden Sharp at 15, guys. W. We still get the Pelicans pick.
Oh, okay.
Bozos shouldn't have gotten mad. We shouldn't have gotten mad, Eric. We're stupid.
Yeah. We're gonna trade the Hornets that Bucks pick for that. I mean, hey, if we could get those, I know you don't like Murray, but if we could get Murray and Sharp with. Trading
obviously, yes. Even if we still had 11, like if we kept the Pelicans pick and us at 11, I would take Sharp at 6 and Murray at 11. So, yeah.
And the only way Sharp is falling is if he just bombs and workouts and is terrible and his measurements are bad and not as good as people thought. And in that case, he probably just goes back to Kentucky, right?
Yeah, exactly. They have a draft profile for forfeited pick. Mocked at 43. Good old NBA draft.net, man. Yeah. See, this is what you get. Malachi Branham, I think, is going to rise to a late lottery pick. Yeah. I like Branham. I agree with you. I like Branham.
Yeah, I like Branham a lot.
I don't even know what it is, but I like him. And then like I've seen like Wesley, and then McGowan's are like kind of wild card, intriguing, like project guards that could end up being really good, but could end up being complete crap. So it's always interesting to see where those guys go.
Wait, when was this updated? Okay, 9 days ago. So they didn't get the memo yet on Baycott going back to school.
Yeah, Baycott went back. Cockburn entered. Drew Timmy can still go back.
Sheboy went back too.
Yeah, Drew Timmy can still go back. He ain't going to Kentucky though, okay?
He's going to Portland there.
Yeah, he is. Shaden Sharp, Keegan Murray, and Wendell Moore, and Drew Timmy.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. We got Kentucky covered. We got Duke covered. We got Gonzaga covered, and then we got Iowa. I don't want to. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't like this pick at 59. We could draft Gabe Brown. We could have Greg Brown and Gabe Brown. Anyway, I haven't looked at this too much. Anyway. So, we haven't talked about Toronto. Okay. Do you think... No, we're not going to do a mock draft, Mr. T. Do you think that Toronto, if they get swept, do you think they maybe consider... This is very, ambiguous phrasing, but do you think they maybe consider trading OG Anunoby, Anunoby, or Pascal Siakam?
I definitely think they'll consider it. I also think they considered trading Siakam last summer, but ultimately they just put too high of a price tag on them, or on Siakam in particular.
Yeah.
And we're talking, what was it, CJ and 2 or 3 firsts or something they wanted. Because they weren't really interested in CJ, but they just wanted the first. So, that kind of value, it's tough to know what they'll do. Masai Ujiri's not going to just give him away like Cronin did with our players. It's tough. So I think our best chance at someone like OG, in my opinion, is if the Pacers find, or not the Pacers, well, the Pacers come into play here, but if the Raptors find a center they like long-term without OG or Siakam, that would be a fit with whatever two's left. And that team, say the Pacers and Miles Turner, did not want or necessarily need OG because they were going into a full rebuild, and then we swoop in and offer them salary relief and a multitude of picks or whatever, and young players. But yeah, I think that's the only scenario, I think, finding a team like that where Toronto's satisfied because they get the right player. Now, if we are 6 to 8 and Duran's on the board and that's the guy they determine, I think that's a possibility as well.
Yeah.
But short of that scenario, I think we just have to find a third team with the center they want.
I would do our pick for OG Anunoby, assuming it doesn't move up and assuming Shaden Sharp's not on the board. Okay? If Shaden Sharp goes 5 and we stay at 6 or move down to 7, I am trading that pick for OG Anunoby.
Yeah.
And then you're probably not getting Jeremy Grant. Or, if they're willing to take on Bledsoe, then you can save the TPE and maybe use that for Grant. And I am more comfortable with Grant if we get OG Anunoby, because we need that elite on-ball defender.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I have to watch more Grant, which is funny because, so I got a hate comment on last stream talking about how defensive analytics are noisy and blah, 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 stuff that I've said a million times. And I literally admitted last stream that I have to watch, I haven't watched Jeremy Grant defend on the ball, really, but the consensus is that he's not that good of an on-ball defender. But, and he grades out as an F grade on-ball defender based on D. LeBron, right? And based on, I think there's another metric that had him rated pretty badly, and I said that it's noisy, and I got hate because it's noisy. I literally said that.
Hey, I happen to know someone who actually went back and watched Denver playoff games from the bubble. That series where they were so great. Where Grant was so great. Mm-hmm. And that's Reese. I don't know if he said he was a few minutes behind a little bit ago, so I don't know if he's caught up yet or not. But he actually went back and showed clips of him being terrible at screen navigation and all this kind of stuff. And that's the series that everyone points to, with him being such an elite defender and stuff like that.
Yeah. Reese, can you compile those? And because I haven't seen any of them. Where did he put them?
He posted them in the GC. You should have.
He should tweet them.
Yeah.
Reese, tweet them.
I don't know if he still has them saved or
Tweet
not.
a thread, Reese. I will retweet that.
Here's so this ties into what you were saying earlier about Gobert and what the Utah Jazz problems are. In the playoffs, teams do nothing, at least good teams, do nothing but hunt matchups, right?
Yep.
So it doesn't matter who the screener is if, like, Steph Curry on the Warriors is guarding CJ. CJ's going to come set the pick for Dame, so Dame gets Curry switched onto him instead of Iguodala or something, you know, or Klay Thompson or whatever. So this is what is going to happen. You need good screen navigators. I had him post, funny enough, a guy you mentioned earlier of us getting Reggie Bullock is actually really good at this, which is kind of surprising.
Yeah. You know who else is good at it? Anthony Simons.
Yeah. And so this is a case where it doesn't really matter what you think of Jeremy Grant or players like that. If they're constantly having to switch because they can't get through screens in the playoffs, they're going to get exposed. And I don't care how much he gets in someone's face or it looks like he's playing good defense. Come playoff time, this is what almost always happens. And it's not a knock on Jeremy Grant. It's just a knock on any type of player who is bad at screen navigations on ball. And that's going to continue to be a problem. It's been a problem for Portland. I mean, that's the primary reason why our defense has sucked for years. So we need to address that. And that's my problem is I don't feel like we address that with Jeremy Grant. And someone like OG is a little better or a lot better at that kind of stuff. So I would have much more confidence in him navigating those screens than I would Jeremy Grant.
Yep. XCDep says, make it a video so we could all watch it on YouTube for the channel. I don't do highlights on the main channel. I've said that as many times as I possibly can. I know some people miss it, but don't want to worry about copyright. Okay? I get the videos automatically get demonetized and claimed, and you always have to worry about people having the power to strike your channel and make it so we can't stream. Doesn't really happen, but it's always possible. You can never roll it out when you upload copywritten content like that. So it's extra work to put in highlights. The videos get demonetized, and I have to worry about them potentially getting striked. They get claimed, and I have to worry about them getting striked. Claims and strikes are different. Claims just means that the NBA makes all the money off the video. Strikes would mean the video gets taken down, and it's a strike against the channel, and there's like penalties that go with that. And if you get 3 strikes against the channel, your whole channel gets terminated, and you can't start more YouTube channels. That doesn't happen with NBA highlights. Like, there's so many NBA highlight channels and whatnot, so, like, that's not, something that I'd be too stressed about. Like, people just upload highlights and they get claimed and that's that. I just would rather not deal with it. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why I always go the extra mile for graphics, because it's not like I'm showing highlights. That's why the player reviews, I went the extra mile for graphics, just so it's not just me staring at you talking for 20 minutes, even though some of you are probably into that. But it's a situation where I just don't want to do highlights, so I go the extra mile with graphics and try and make those good. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yep, I agree. Aeromancer, it should be free use, but the NBA is really a pain when it comes to dealing with that kind of stuff.
I wish I could pay the NBA. Like, it's like, I'm not using highlights anyway because they're copywritten, but I could pay you $10 a month and use highlights. What does it hurt? Mm-hmm. I wish they allowed you some sort of membership where you could use highlights without them claiming the videos. But the thing is, they'd make less money off of it. So they wouldn't do that. It would just be dope because I'm not going to use highlights anyway, so I wish I could. But, all right, Reese is going to tweet a thread with those highlight clips. All right, so I will retweet it. So if any of you want to see it, follow me on Twitter, and then also follow Reese because he's putting in the work for all that.
At Reese Cooley, I think.
At Reese Cooley, his name. It's in the chat right there. And then follow me at Tori Jones YT, Eric's at Hoopshocks. Our Twitter tags are in our name tags below. I need to put a black outline on it so it's a little easier to read. But yeah, we'll retweet it. Speaking of Chiefin, Eric.
What's up, Chiefin?
He says what's up to you, but not to me.
Yeah, he's trying to duck
Interesting. You. Yeah, duck. Duck, goose. All right, so back to Toronto, though. Would you give up... What's the highest pick you'd give up straight up for Pascal Siakam, assuming we trade out Bledsoe to match salary, Winslow to match salary, Lozada, Greg Brown, and I forget, Keon Johnson. Maybe it's the 3-team deal with Detroit that I tweeted.
I would maybe consider all the way to 4 if it's Ivy. That's the pick there. Mm-hmm. But I'm not trading any of the top 3 in my opinion.
I think I would trade the number 1 overall pick for Siakam.
Mm-hmm. I think in that scenario, I think I would expect to get some sort of asset back too, and I don't know if...
I mean, yeah, you try and negotiate that. Yeah. But, like, Siakam's a borderline, at least this year, was like a borderline top 20 player. How confident are we that anybody from this draft specifically has more than a 50-50 chance of becoming a top 20 player? I'm not confident enough in anybody from this draft to say, oh, yeah, they're probably going to become a top 20 player. So I'd rather just go with the guy now.
It's hard to say about any player because he wouldn't have said that about Luka or Jokic or Giannis or...
Yeah, but like the debate was Marvin Bagley versus Luka, and I guarantee you at the time, I mean, some people were on board
for one team, and that one team was just happened to be the team that had second. No other team was taking.
I mean, people were high on Marvin Bagley, though. You know what I mean? Like, that's the thing is we don't know which. Like, one of them is probably going to be a top 20 player. I have confidence. Yeah, I have confidence that one of Jabari, Chet, and Banchero is going to be a top 20 player. I just don't know which one. So if you're looking at, like, I think one of them, maybe 2 of them, are not going to be top 20 players, are not going to be as good as Siakam was. They might be all-stars, but, like, Siakam was more like top 20 player this year. Siakam was 22, 9, 5, good defensively. Like, that's pretty high bar. Okay? I just, that's the thing is, like, you don't trade the pick if you're confident that, okay, this guy that we're going to draft is going to become top 20. I don't have enough confidence in all of these prospects have enough question marks for me that I don't have enough confidence in them becoming that. So that's why I'd probably trade the number 1 overall pick for Siakam.
Yeah. XC Depth's out there recruiting Terrence Ross for some reason.
Yeah. If he wants to be in the Ben McLemore role.
He's probably funny on Twitch. So.
Yeah. Shout out to Terrence Ross, man. But not really the guy we need in the rotation.
And, I mean, I guess if we didn't do the Jeremy Grant trade, we could use the TP for the other player. But anyone talking about adding another player to Siakam from Toronto, or it's already hard enough to match salary for Siakam, let alone another player...
Yeah, you'd basically give up all the salary they have to trade for Siakam without trading Hart. It could be done if you did Keon to Detroit and then, some combination of Bledsoe, Winslow, Lozada, and Greg Brown to Toronto/Detroit. If Detroit wants any of them, they can have them.
Or any
and
team.
It works.
Yeah.
And you could potentially get Grant and Siakam. Which I know you don't like Grant at the 3, but it sounds like they're going to be willing to play Grant at the 3. I'm just kind of accepted that that's a very realistic possibility. I mean, I'd take Siakam there. Trevin says, Torrey always trying to trade upside for floor, because I always talk about raising the ceiling of this team. See, I'm cool with trading away, like, long-term potential upside, like, a prospect like that, if it raises our ceiling right now to contender. And I think getting a Siakam right now could raise our ceiling to a contender. Depends on who the 3 is, of course, and you might need Nas to pop a little bit, but I think it could get us to a contender. That's why I'm willing to do it. You look at how good Justice Winslow seemingly looked, Eric, during that 4-game winning streak, and the dude was even less efficient than he was for his career. I talked about that in my player review. Imagine Pascal Siakam. I think Pascal Siakam would be great in Chauncey's system. I want Siakam. That's my dream off-season target. I don't think it's realistic, but here's the thing. If it goes down to 4, would you do 4 and Nas for Siakam? Assuming it was Ivy left there on the board?
I don't know. I don't know. That's
Chat,
tough.
would you? Yeah, it is tough. I think I'd have to.
I would see what other offers there were for 4 first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't see like who else would be available that would be better.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown's a little bit more questionable defensively. I think Siakam's a better fit. I think Siakam would make us better.
He's not going to be available though. The way Celtics are playing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's possible Zion could become available. That's always weird.
I would rather have Siakam than Zion, though.
Yeah. But
like, even if Zion...
we could get Zion without having to trade, like, 6 players out, though, and it might be a little easier to maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, like, if that's on the table versus, like, trading out the players I mentioned to match salary. Because here's the thing. It would be easier to match salary if you include Nas in the trade. Like, you could include Nas instead of Lozada and Greg Brown. So it'd be, like, Bledsoe, Keon, Nas, and Winslow would match Siakam. And then, you know, you can send Keon to Detroit and the Milwaukee first if they're still willing to do that. I think I just have to, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think OG is a little bit more realistic, potentially. I don't know. It's just, and this all hinges on them going with a more traditional lineup and starting Scotty Barnes at one of the forward spots and then one of OG or Anunoby at the other forward spot and going with a traditional center. Because right now they play those guys at the 3, 4, and 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like Siakam is basically their 5. And I think it sucks that Scotty Barnes got hurt, but it's like, how do you guard Joel Embiid if Siakam's your 5? Siakam is worse defensively at the 5 than he is at the 4. Because he's more of a perimeter defender, team defender, instead of a guy that's really going to protect the rim at a super high level and bang down low with a guy like Embiid.
I mean, he did a pretty good job at rim protection this year.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that's not like his biggest strength defensively. I think he's worse at the 5 defensively than he is at the 4. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah.
So, I don't know. Like, I don't know what their thinking is. I don't think they trade anybody, right? Because that's the thing. Every time I bring it up, Raptor fans, somehow they always find my tweets. Always. And I know at this point, if I tweet anything about any of those guys not being in Toronto, within 5 minutes, I'm going to have like 5 replies from all Raptors fans that all hate my guts because I want their player on my team, as if it's an insult, right? So, I don't think anything happens, but I'm rooting for them to get swept just to make it a possibility. I saw Blazer fans that were upset that Philadelphia beat them in Game 3 and went up 3-0. And I didn't understand why, because it's like, it might maybe make that possible for either one of those guys. And those would be my top 2 targets that are potentially gettable if they get swept. OG would be better than Grant here, in my opinion, and then Siakam would be better than all of them. OG's more gettable because he fits in the TP. And if we have like the 7th, 8th pick, maybe straight up. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they fell in love with a player like Barnes that might be dependent on him being on the board still at 7. I don't know who that would be, because if it's a forward, that seems kind of weird. Maybe it's like a Mathurin or something. I could see them.
Yeah, he's Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connor says, Tori, we are not rooting for Philadelphia. I don't care what the situation is. I'm not rooting for the Sixers. Connor, so you're telling me
if
that
was
it
the
meant
Pelicans, like that, you would have rooted against them on that game Friday night.
Mm-hmm, and if you're telling me that we could potentially contend next year because we could potentially get Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby, you're not rooting for the Philadelphia 76ers to win a series that they were already going to win? I don't understand that. Airmaster says, for the record, during the 4-game winning streak, Justice Winslow had a true shooting percentage of 52.7%, which is better than his career time with us overall. 52.7% is still terrible. And it's a 4-game winning streak. It's 4 games. It's a small sample. This dude has played years in the NBA and has proven that he cannot make shots. People like him, and he embraced Portland. He seems like a really cool guy. I'm cool with him being the 11th man. I don't want him being a permanent member of the rotation, and it sounds like that's what he's going to be. Sounds like that's how they look at him. And that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Did you agree with that, by the way? Did you agree on
Winslow?
Yeah. Were you... Hello?
I mean, I don't have a problem with him having an 8 or 9 man type role if we have two really good forwards. If he's like in the conversation for starting because we don't have good enough forwards, I think then we're in trouble.
Yeah, and Gray says he plays a winning style. But you gotta get guys to play a winning style that are better than him in the rotation if you want to contend. Because that's what Phoenix has. Every permanent member of their rotation is a better NBA player than Justice Winslow, and they all play the right style of basketball. And there's guys that are maybe on the fence that you can...
This year.
Well, see, they needed another point guard. And they brought in Aaron Holiday to potentially supplant him. So that's the thing, is you don't necessarily settle for Justice Winslow. Like, if he's the ninth man and plays 15 minutes a game, like, I'm not going to be a fan of it, but I could stomach it. If there's a chance that he could start next year, I am going to be the opposite as I was this past preseason, where I was too positive. I'll be sitting there like I don't really trust the team going into the season. I'll let you know if I don't trust the team going into the season.
All right, Aeromaster says 527 shooting percentage is bad, but not so bad that he can't be a rotation guy. But we're talking about the 52.7% being his like peak during a 4-game sample size.
Yeah.
Not that he shot 52.7 true shooting percentage like in his time in Portland or this season or for several months. We're talking about him doing that for 4 games when the rest of the time here was below 47% because that was his true shooting percentage the rest of the year.
Oh, God. Aeromancer, you did not just compare Justice Winslow to Draymond Green. In Draymond's Green... Oh, God. We just... Never mind.
I mean, he is kind of like that type of player, but yeah. Not
He's
good.
like
not as good.
He's like a Walmart clearance rack Draymond Green. Like, that's the thing. Yeah.
I'll say this, though. I'd rather have Winslow than Jeremy Grant or Julius Randle, or what we'd have to give up for them.
I'd rather have Winslow than Julius Randle. I wouldn't rather have Winslow than Jeremy Grant. Assuming we could get him for the Milwaukee first and Keon Johnson.
If we give up our pick.
If we give up well, yeah, hell no. Obviously, yeah. I would rather have our pick and Justice Winslow than Jeremy Grant. Yes, I agree. Zach says we got a mini Draymond Green and a mini LeBron. We definitely won the trade. And we got a mini Kawhi. Don't forget about that, Zach. We got mini Kawhi, mini LeBron, mini Draymond.
Yeah, need one of those to become the actual person.
Yeah, we gotta stop. Yeah, and then we got mini Dame, but he's, actually, like, good. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is I know people like Justice Winslow, so it was kind of tough being Haram, but I'm not going to sit there and lie about, like, what I think, so, it is what it is. You can be higher on him. I just don't like... I would rather play Watford next year than Winslow. At the 4, at least.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about the Fisher article?
Yeah, I'm just reading this comment in chat.
Oh, are you?
If we want to keep our own pick, please just trade Dame. Why?
Oh, God. Don't.
Yeah.
You could keep the pick and keep Dame. There is not mutually exclusive. Doesn't really make sense. But what do we know? I'm down to keep Dame and losing the play-in next year. All right, you heard it here first. I mean, I'm not down to losing the play-in, but if that's what it takes to keep Dame, I'm cool with that. Okay? Like, if you can't enjoy having a franchise player, potentially best player in your organization on your team that embraces being on your team, because you're probably not going to win a freaking championship because it's really freaking hard, and if you can't take an enjoyment in anything else, then yeah, I see why you would maybe want Dame gone. But I enjoy having Damian Lillard as a part of this Portland Trail Blazers organization and on my basketball team. And the fact that he wants to be here and he, wants to stay here. And he's been loyal as hell, so I want to be loyal to him. I'm never going to sit here and think... And people... Why do people feel bad for Dame because Dame is doing what he wants to do?
That's who he is. He wants to be here. He wants to build this. He wants to win in Portland. Why does that have to feel bad for him?
I feel bad for Dame when people say that we need to go back on his loyalty.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to be here, and people say, we should trade him because they feel bad for him. What? I feel bad for him if we traded him when he doesn't want to be traded, when he's been loyal his whole career. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to feel bad for him because he wants to stay and we allow him to stay and try and build around him a different way.
I agree. If, like, this summer we're like, you know what, Dame, we're going to trade you, and we force him out of Portland, then I feel bad for him. You know?
Yeah. Like, I just don't understand that, man. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, please, I'm on it. Like, I'm not even like mad, or I'm just honestly just confused by people that think that.
Yo, boys is chumps running from the grind, right? Why would he say stuff like that if he's like being held here against his will? He wouldn't.
Yeah, you can feel bad for him if he asks for a trade and we don't trade him. Then you can feel bad for him because he wants to leave and we won't let him leave. Okay, but that's the thing is, even if somebody asks for a trade, you can always mend fences. And it doesn't mean that it means the relationship between organization and player is completely dead, right, Eric?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of hinting at something completely unrelated that probably only you get, but and maybe Smog, if he's in here, Smog gets it. But I don't think Smog's in here. Yeah. Anyway, I don't even want to think about that. That's Connor knows. Anyway, do you want to talk about the Fisher article?
Sure. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's end with that.
All right. So J.K. Fisher, who we've talked about on the show before, is trying to make a name for himself in the NBA. He's had a lot of good intel starting with last offseason. Was right on a lot of things. And yeah, just had a brutal article for Blazer fans to read today.
It wasn't brutal for me, though.
I mean, it's just like a gut punch every time you hear stuff like what was mentioned in the article. It just
confirmed what I already knew.
No, I mean, it confirms it, but like...
Yeah, like... It's more just like, of course, try to tell you. Yeah. So great. Let me take the Gray Hughes dono, and then you can start like kind of recapping the little parts of it. Gray Hughes, $5 dono. Appreciate you, Gray, man. He says, Watford is a sleeper Swiss Army knife player who has an unusual skill set, pass, inside floaters, efforts, cuts, and is good. I absolutely agree. I just hope he can knock down threes. Because if he can knock down threes, it's going to be hard to keep him out of the rotation. Like, it'll be the opposite problem as for me with Justice Winslow. I was like, if Watford comes in knocking down threes in training camps and stuff, I mean, how do you keep that dude out of the rotation? Because he does everything else at a solid level as a rookie. He's probably going to be better at pretty much everything else coming into training camp. He seems like a hard worker. If he can knock down three, like, the dude is perfect role player. I'm very intrigued to see how his career goes, man. He's going to be fun. It's fun to have a guy like that nobody expected really anything out of, and it's just like, see, he's going to become an asset that you got for nothing. Asset acquisition.
And the thing about guys like Trendon, in my opinion, if they are going to be good in the NBA, they beat out competition, not like wilt if we trade for another power forward like Jeremy Grant or something, right? So in my mind, the true greats, if we trade for Jeremy Grant and in training camp they're questioning whether they should start Watford or Grant at the 4, it's not necessarily because that trade would be bad, even though it would be in that scenario, but that's the kind of hunger I want to see out of a guy like Watford. So I want him to be motivated in that situation, not get down on himself, and that's why I kind of want to trade for good forwards to see how much he can push himself to say, nah, this is my job type of thing, and I'm not relinquishing it, versus just, okay, I guess I'll just go to the end of the bench and root for the team again, type attitude. And it'd be interesting to see what kind of attitude he has, because I don't think it's going to be one that just gives up.
Yeah. I mean, he's grateful for being in the league on a contract because he was undrafted. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to feel entitled to anything. And if he doesn't have a role, like, he knows the team is going to be better next year. Here's the thing. He had a taste of success. If anything, it's going to make him work harder because he had a taste of playing real minutes in the NBA for a team that got whacked. But now this team is probably going to be at least somewhat competitive next year, and he's going to be able to play next to Dame, which he never really got a chance to. Like, he has an opportunity. he's going to work harder because that's a motivating factor. That's a motivating factor. But like, it's not a situation where he's going to come in and just think, oh yeah, I deserve this role.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that he's going to have to work for it. He's going to be motivated to work for it due to this situation. I think he's going to bust his ass this summer. I think he's going to come back knocking down threes. I fully believe in his work ethic, in him as a person, him as a player. Okay?
And it sounded like the coaching staff, in particular Scott Brooks, kind of took him under his wing and challenged him to become a better shooter and work on some of those things he needed as well. So that should help him a lot over the summer, having a coach like that in his ear telling him you need to improve these things.
Yep. I think a few years from now, he's going to be at least like Larry Nance Jr. is right now. In terms of being like, not necessarily the same exact player, but just like being able to just be that role player that just fits in really, really well. That plays good defense, makes the right pass, can handle the ball, can knock down shots, can do everything.
And Mike Posner says same applies to Nas. And that's also why I don't want to necessarily just give Nasir the starting small forward spot. Now, if he earns it because he's looking so good in practice and is becoming the next Mikal Bridges or whatever, like Chauncey wants him to be, then that's awesome. But I don't want him to just go into this offseason like, okay, we have our 3 and 4 with Trendon and Oz. Like, we just have to find, like, role players like Winslow is fine. You know, like that kind of attitude. That's what gets you in trouble in my mind. I think we need to always strive to put better players on the floor, and those are the two positions where we can absolutely upgrade and also have those guys challenge those upgrades and be just as good, or if not better than those upgrades. So it'd be a really fun competition, I think, and there's plenty of minutes at the forward spots, I think, for multiple players to succeed there.
Yep. We have all our mods in here at once, man. All 4 of them. Because
Nice.
Chris is the graphics guy. I don't know if he counts, because Chris definitely ain't in here. But all the other 4 is this is the first time in a while, probably. That's cool. Shout out Caleb Pendergraph, $5 dono. He says, the fact that the Fisher article says that we don't have much appetite to trade our own pick for him is good to hear, in my opinion. Okay, thank you, Caleb Pendergraph, for the $5 dono and the segue to talking about this. So,
well, I'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I feel like a couple of the things in there contradicted that. Like, yeah, it did say that, but it also said the opposite at one point. So I'm kind of confused. But let's just go through it real quick. So in case you missed it, this article, it starts out by talking about John Wall and how he might be bought out, all that kind of stuff. And then it talks about the significance of the play-in tournament and how the Clippers, the Thunder get the 12th pick and all that. And then it talks about how the Pelicans trade deadline acquisitions of veteran guards C.J. McCollum and Larry Nance paid significant dividends. And directly under that it says, at the time, it was commonly regarded around the NBA as a value deal for the Pelicans. Care to comment on that, Tori?
I'm going to drop a ramble video on this, and I am going to ramble/rant on it tomorrow, all right? I'm putting back the fun video that I have planned. So I don't want to say too much, but, I mean, how many times do we have to say, I told you so? Like, it's not even to pound our own chest. It's just like,
it now. Like, it's
yeah,
it's so dumb.
I mean, it's just frustrating because, like, logically it never made sense that he was a negative value with the type of production he provides. And at the time we even heard that people thought the Pelicans got a good deal. Like, just pay attention. Pay attention to the CBA. Pay attention to what players get paid for their production. Remove your bias against the Dame CJ backcourt or against Neil Olshey or whatever, and just think logically and just think things through. And if you don't think he's worth it, have logical reasons and say, these are like, I think that, you know, he struggles with this, and therefore I don't think he's worth this contract. Blah, like, just be logical with it, right? And I will logically say why I disagree with that. And then that's a conversation. Then that's a debate, and everything's good, and there's no beef on Twitter, and there's no problems. But I'm getting a little bit too deep into this because I wanted to save this for the freaking video. But instead, you got people. Yep. I mean, I'll talk about it more tomorrow. All right. There's your little teaser, chat. Anyway, yeah. He's not a negative freaking contract. Hopefully, people will stop saying that. But here's the thing: people aren't going to stop saying that, Eric.
No.
People are going to keep saying that, and then they're going to call us dumbasses when we say that he's not. Apparently, all the other GMs are dumbasses too, as if they're not what determines what contract a player is worth.
Well, I mean, even at before the trade, there was conflicting, because there was the tweet, I forgot who tweeted out that CJ is viewed as a negative asset, right? And then you saw other tweets saying, like, no, there's actually several teams interested in CJ and willing to give up this or that for him. And, I mean, I know other than New Orleans, Atlanta, Cleveland, and New York were all seriously interested in CJ. And I know at least 5 other teams were that didn't have the assets to get CJ. And that's like Brooklyn and like both LA teams. Like they just didn't have the type of stuff we would have wanted in return for those deals, right? So like those type of trades wouldn't have materialized, but that doesn't mean that those teams weren't interested in CJ. They definitely called about him. And then, but those other teams would have been willing to give up packages similar or more heavier than ours. But as we read on in the article about Portland's nightmare outcome, the Blazers seem to prioritize salary flexibility in their trade deadline conversations rather than leverage a greater amount of draft capital. So there it is. We left value on the table for flexibility. And
so guess what? Cronin had leverage.
Yeah. Yep. And here's the thing. Okay. First of all, what did not protecting the pick further have to do with cap flexibility? It had no bearing, right? If we would have had the Lakers pick instead, if it happened in this scenario. Whatever.
Yeah, we wouldn't have had a whole stream criticizing him. We'd be like, oh, this could actually end up better. Yeah. Good job, Cronin, for trying to cover your bases.
We still have like a 60% chance or whatever it is of getting that pick still, right? There's still hope, at least. If it moved up into the top 4, I mean, then that you might say that was a risk worth taking. And then it probably turns into the Milwaukee pick anyway. So what did it matter? Like, It's so dumb. But here's the thing. We made all these trades for salary cap flexibility, right? Right?
For who?
What have we been telling you guys? We don't have cap space. All these guys, they talk, Nurk's being resigned, Ant's being resigned, Hart's being retained. We don't have cap space if we do those 3 things. So, like... It doesn't give us flexibility. So we gave up draft capital in trades for absolutely nothing because we weren't willing to take on maybe a salary that like a Devontae Graham in the New Orleans trade might have gotten us an extra first or something. We should have been stockpiling as many assets as possible instead of this crap with just trying to clear the books for not having cap space anyway, right?
Yep.
We could have created just as big, if not a bigger trade exception. And you know what? Having a guy like Devontae Graham, even if it's a bad contract, or Garrett Temple or whatever they would have wanted, those are the only 2 bad contracts they have on their team. So it had to have been either one or both of those guys. So what would have happened if we had traded for those guys and gotten extra picks? We'd have that salary to match Siakam easily and have an extra pick to trade him in addition to our pick, right? So if we got the 6th pick and we had another Pelicans pick and we had like a first in the other trade from the Clippers or something, even if it was heavily protected, that's like 3 firsts we could trade for Siakam and we'd have the salary to match it without having to talk about including Hart or young players or Nas or any of this crap. And we completely screwed ourselves out of basically getting in the conversation unless we use our pick to go after a player that might be a bit of an overpay. And now we're in that situation, all because we weren't willing to take on salary when taking on salary would not have been a negative like people try to talk you into.
Yep, and here's the thing. If this was a really good free agent class, then maybe being able to provide teams with salary cap savings in a trade because you didn't have to match salary, you know, trade for Siakam, use a cap space or whatever. Maybe, you know, if like Toronto had multiple free agents they want to go after, maybe that would be part of the deal. But this free agent class sucks. Nobody ever talks about that. Outside of Levine and Bradley Beal,
who are both guards.
Yeah, you got Miles Bridges, who's a restricted free agent, probably going back to Charlotte. They're just going to match. Same thing for DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix. Who else? Let me pull up a free agent list. 2022 NBA, and I'll just go through the names.
And yeah, while you're doing that, let me just read the next sentence. There must have been wiggle room for Portland to swipe more than one first rounder from the pick-loaded Pelicans for McCollum and Nance. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So that's what people around the NBA are saying about the trade, or said about the trade, is that there had to have been a way for Portland to get more value out of it.
Yep. So free agent class, James Harden's going back to the Sixers. You got Zach LaVine probably going back to the Bulls. Bradley Beal has a player option. Kyrie Irving has a player option. I mean, that dude goes from team to team to team and burns down every team he goes to. So who knows? Then you got DeAndre Ayton restricted. Miles Bridges. Guess who's the 7th best free agent? Anthony Simons. At least on this list, restricted free agent, gonna get matched. Okay, Jalen Brunson is apparently, it says he's unrestricted, so I didn't realize that. So
Brunson,
yeah. Guess who the 11th best free agent is? Right, numerous guys above him are just going back to their teams. The 11th best free agent is Yusuf freaking Nurkic. Like, teams are not going to be looking for cap space in this free agent market at all. So it makes it more doable to just send out matching salary, especially if you have more assets, because I don't think teams are going to be chasing cap space this summer. So it's we try to tell y'all. I mean, like, that's the thing is it's just common sense, man. And you can see this stuff if you just pay attention. And if you know the CBA and whatnot. And if you're somebody that's like not that invested, that's fine. That's what we're here for, right? To try and, educate you and kind of break things down and explain it. And, maybe we can educate you with the CBA a little bit so you can, figure things out a little bit more on your own. But if not, that's what we're here for, right? But apparently this is the wrong side of YouTube to be on, instead of just lying to you and BSing. And, I don't want to go too much into it, but...
Yeah. And then it says that the Blazers have been banking on the Pelicans to deliver that late lottery selection. And then it goes on to say later that they were operating as if the pick was going to be ours. So they didn't even... This backs up, if it's correct, I mean, who knows, but it backs up the fact that they assumed the Pelicans would not make the playoffs. They probably assumed at the time the Lakers were going to easily beat them or stave them off or whatever, and they didn't, and they didn't account for that angle, and that's, I'm sorry, you don't get to play GM if you cannot account for all angles and you make assumptions. That's the worst possible thing you can do. You have to cover all your bases. You have to know if you're trading a team, CJ and Larry Nance, and you're getting back only one rotation player from their team, only one player that really matters to their success, but you're upgrading 2 positions for 1, that you have to realize that there's a chance they could be better. And they also had a chance at the time of getting Zion back at some point. He wasn't ruled out for the season yet, right? So you should have seen a scenario where, hey, wait a minute, Pelicans, what happens if you guys actually do really good after this trade and beat out the Lakers for the spot? And to not account for that, like this article suggests, that we just assumed that they wouldn't make the playoffs, is just outright inexcusable, and no one should be a GM if they make that kind of misstep. You tried, we gave them a chance. I'm sorry, you did a terrible job, and you shouldn't be allowed to keep it. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. He's going to be kept on, most likely, at least through the offseason.
Yeah, so what have we learned here, okay? CJ McCollum had positive value. He wasn't a negative contract like some people tried to say. That was a lie by them, okay? Don't know where the hell they got it from. That was just their own intuition, which sucks, okay? And
there were national people tweeting that out, but... There was contradicting stuff.
Yeah, because national people are just so educated when it comes to the Blazers. Just random.
I mean, some of those same people said that if Dame signs a extension this summer, he's a negative contract then too. Yeah. So now we're going to listen to those guys? Okay, so that was a lie. The other lie was Cronin had no leverage. What'd you expect him to do? Nobody else wanted him. There's just been people that have been spewing lies as if they're facts and then basically acting like anybody that argues with it is an idiot, and they'll even call him an idiot, and it just doesn't, what?
What? It just doesn't make sense, man. So that's what my videos tomorrow is going to be about. If you don't want to watch it, that's fine. Like, if some people don't care about this, it's just, yeah, it's Cronin botched this deadline. And we called it like it is the whole entire way. And we were, I don't know, man.
And to go back to, was it Caleb's donation?
Yeah, the second to last one.
Yeah.
We got, I think, Liam.
Go ahead and do that.
Shout out Liam Best, $5 Australian donor. He says, sorry if I missed this, but if we are getting Grant, how would you use him at small forward with Mason Plumlee and injured Blake? He was 23, 6, and 3 on 60% true shooting percentage. I mean, that was a small sample size, so I don't put stock in those numbers because he had a much bigger sample size in Detroit playing some small forward, some power forward, and did not maintain that efficiency. So, I mean, I would rather have him at power forward. Like, him and, like, unless we're getting Siakam. Unless we're getting such a great power forward that you play him at small forward, then I'd rather play him at power forward, like OG at the 3 and Grant at the 4. I think OG would be a good fit next to him. But, like, if you can just get the talent of Siakam and just fit that in there, and he's good defensively, and you can have Grant at the 3, Siakam at the 4, Nurkic at the 5, that's fine. I'm also fine with him at the 3 if you get Chet. I think Grant at the 3, Chet at the 4, Nurkic at the 5 works because you can play aggressive on the perimeter. You're just going all in at rim protection. I think Grant is a good rim protector at the 3. Struggles on the ball. Chet would be a phenomenal rim protector at the 4, and then Nurkic is solid rim protector at the 5. And with like Dame and Ant and Grant when he's on the ball, you just tell him play aggressive, still try and stay in front of your guy, but don't let guys shoot threes. And then if you get beat, you got a ton of rim protection right in behind you. You just got to rotate back out if they kick the ball out, and you can play defense like that. And I think it could work. So,
yeah. And speaking of Grant, back to the article. So it says the Blazers' interest in trading at least one of those 2 picks, meaning that if we would have gotten one of the 2 assumed lottery picks for Jeremy Grant, has been one of the worst kept secrets in the NBA circle. It doesn't say, like Caleb said, I mean, it does conflict this later on, but that leads me to believe that we weren't necessarily trading the Pelicans pick for Jeremy Grant. It just says one of those 2. And then a Western Conference official said it was a big deal to them. The expectations was certainly once we get this pick, we'll turn it into someone. We'll overpay to get someone. Now, that word scares me as well, right? Because if we don't know which pick they were hoping to give up, I mean, obviously they would try for the 11th pick, but knowing Cronin's negotiation skills, and is like, nope, we want the 6th pick. Okay. Yeah, so...
It's so obvious.
I know. So I'm now scared that we're gonna, if we fall to 8th, we're just gonna trade that to the Pistons just to make sure we get him, and that'll be our overpay, which is what they were planning on doing anyway. It just wasn't going to be our pick; it was going to be the other pick.
That's gonna suck if that happens. Pray for lottery. I mean, we can still end up top 4. I don't think Cronin is that dumb that he'd trade a top 4 pick for Grant, right? At least he would trade down and trade one of the picks. Yeah. And that's the thing. If you end up at 4, maybe you could trade down for like 6 and 15, depending on who's at 6. There's some teams like Houston, OKC with some later first round picks, and then you trade the later one for Grant, and then it's like, okay, it's not as bad. Like, so just pray for May 17th, the day's getting closer. Just pray for lottery luck. But if it's a case where we fall to 7 or 8 and then we trade that for Grant, I will rage at the move, okay? And people will say it's a great move, and I'll disagree. And then the downside, like, I don't know. Like, I don't see this happening, but maybe it ends up just being a phenomenal move and we contend for a championship, okay? And I'll sit there and like, oh, wow, Jeremy Grant was a really good pickup. Yeah. But I'll be happy because we're contending for a championship, and I'll just be like, okay, yeah, Jeremy Grant's basically KD, and I'll be happy, and we'll be fine, So that'll be the downside. Like, there's no downside in not liking the move. If it doesn't work out, you're right, and then if it works out, you're wrong, but your team's good. I'd rather be wrong and the team's good. I would be rooting for it to work out, even though I don't think it would be a good value play to be going all in on Jeremy Grant. Okay. And here's the thing. If we do a trade like that, we'll just need Nasir Little and Anthony Simons to pop. And if they pop and we win because of it, cool. If Dame and Ant become decent defenders and we're good defensively that way and we win games because of that, cool. Right? I just don't want to bank on that. That's why I want to get enough talent and defensive forwards, to be able to not have to count on that.
Right. So the article says the Blazers, it's indicated that they do not have a desire to sacrifice their own selection, currently slated as number 6, but would have been willing to go at number 11 as a much easier pill to swallow.
Yeah.
But if we fall to 8 or 9, is that really that much different than 11, right?
Just please don't get screwed.
here's the deal, though. If we trade our pick for Jeremy Grant, I am telling you guys, you have not seen a rant yet.
God.
You have not.
Oh, God.
Every single Brant rant put together times 1,000 will not be as bad as my rant will be. You know why, Tori?
Why?
Because if we trade our pick for Jeremy Grant, that means, first of all, not only did we tank for absolutely no reason, right? We tanked for no reason because we didn't end up with our pick, right? So it didn't matter, right? I guess we had a chance to move up, but we didn't. We wouldn't have moved up in that situation, right? So we would have taken for no reason. I would have been forced to watch all these crappy games all year for absolutely no reason, right?
Yeah.
On top of that, we tanked to screw ourselves because we were sitting there at the All-Star break in a position to be in one of the play-in games, right? We could have had Dame back at some point. The team was playing well enough before the All-Star break to possibly get one of those play-in spots. And you know what that might have done? That might have prevented New Orleans from getting one of the playoff spots. So by tanking, we not only used our pick for Jeremy Grant, which we could have used whether we did it or not, but if we make the playoffs, we would have freed up all our future picks, right? Because our pick would have transferred to Chicago, and then we wouldn't have owed anything to them anymore. That deal would be done. So we'd have all our picks in the future opened up, right? And we would have gotten that same lottery pick around the same place in the draft, maybe a few spots later, but we could have traded that for Jeremy Grant anyway. So we would have screwed ourselves out of being able to trade away all our future picks and getting the New Orleans pick for absolutely no reason at all because we're stupid. If we do that, man, it's the worst GMing job in the history of sports. Like, in the history of any kind of competition.
Billy King has something to say about that, but I agree with the premise.
Billy King made a trade. He didn't purposely sabotage that trade so it didn't work out, right? like that would be like him then sitting Garnett and Pierce after that trade so that Boston got a better pick, right? That's the kind of logic it would be. And that makes no sense to do.
You'd basically be sitting here. It's like, oh, if we didn't tank, we could still have Jeremy Grant and we'd have all our future first. But because we tanked, we get Jeremy Grant, can't trade all of our future first, but we got a Milwaukee 2025 first. I'd rather have the first situation. So taking the rest of the year to screw yourself is just pure incompetency. I agree.
And above that, I mean, this seemed kind of dumb at the time, right? But we assumed, the team assumed, we thought there was a pretty good chance the Pelicans wouldn't make the playoffs, right? It took the Lakers collapsing. It took Paul George getting COVID on the day of the game and all that kind of stuff. But looking back on it, it almost I think it might have been smarter to try and win this season. And especially if we don't move up in the draft.
If this is going to be the move that we made. If this is going to be the move. Because shout out to, let me just respond to this. Shout out Chris Brandlin, $5 donor. He says, this is exactly why I was ambivalent about the tank. This isn't reasoning not to tank. It's reasoning not to tank and then trade the 8th pick for Jeremy Grant. That's why it makes it bad. Not because we tanked. Right. We do something to make the tank stupid. Right. It's not that the tank is stupid in itself.
But if we would have possibly kept the Pelicans, and let's say we try and we beat the Pelicans both times, and then all of a sudden it's the game's in San Antonio instead of New Orleans or something. Like, we could have possibly still gotten a lottery pick and kept New Orleans if we weren't tanking. And so that's going to look back. The reason why we tanked is just one of the most boneheaded decisions of all time, considering the stipulations we put on ourselves in that trade and how tanking allowed not only us to get hopefully a better pick, which wouldn't have panned out in that situation, but also gave the one team that we couldn't afford to have make the play-in a much better chance of making the play-in. That's just so mind-bogglingly stupid.
Yep. If we end up with a top 3 pick because we tanked, great tank. If we end up at 7, oh, well, we tried to get a top 3 pick and we still have the 7th pick, and then we use it and maybe draft the right player. Like, okay, good tank. Like, if we traded for Grant, that's bad tank. Like, it's stupid, you know? So it's nothing to do about the tank. So Chris says, you could have seen this coming, as some of us said so often. Chris, I've never seen you talk about this specific angle where we tank and then trade the pick for Jeremy Grant, which makes no sense.
I mean, like, in his defense, he has been team anti-tank, but
he has been team anti-tank, but
like when teams tank,
yes,
it hasn't been because of this.
It's not because of this like specific angle. So this isn't necessarily exactly why you were anti-tank, is because of this scenario. At least, like, I haven't seen you talk about this scenario, so I get being against the tank, just tanking in general. Like, I can respect that. I'm not. I think it's logical to tank. But yeah, like, you were against tank the whole time, and that's completely fine. Or, you know, ambivalent, or, you know, whatever. Like, you were ambivalent about it. That's completely fine. I just don't think it was, like, this. If that happens and we screwed ourselves over by tanking, that doesn't mean that tanking was bad in the first place. That's all I'm trying to say. It just means the follow-up move made it stupid that, like, our whole plan, we didn't mitigate risk with the Pelicans pick, so then we got in a position where we had to trade the Blazers pick for him, which made the tanking in the first place just completely pointless and hurt us, potentially. Like, it's just incompetency in so many, like, it's just a competency the whole way down the line. Like, how many times can you screw yourself over? Like, it's literally a multi-step process that would be to screwing ourselves over.
It also screwed Ant out of a possible most improved player because we sat him too many games and he didn't qualify or didn't play enough.
Yep, exactly. So, anyway, I'll drop a video talking about it. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about from this article, Eric?
No, I appreciate everyone. Oh, I guess there was a little bit about the Blazers selling the team. As we've said all along, Jody is not going to sell the team for 2 reasons until she gets a payday from these 2 reasons. And one is the new TV deal that's set to take place in 2025. It's supposed to be a massive TV deal, and every owner is going to capitalize on that. And there's going to be an insane amount of money. There's also going to be huge luxury tax payments made to each team this year on top of that. But the other reason is expansion, and we're talking about possibly $1 billion or more between 2 teams coming in that just get split up between the other owners, and for having that's funny, for having so when an expansion team comes in, they have to pay an expansion fee, and that just goes. If the owners approve it to be for them to become teams, they just pay a fee, whatever they determine that a fee to be, and the owners split that, the other 30 owners. So that's
the NBA is going to expand by 2025.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind. Like,
Seattle's at the forefront, and now
Seattle and Vegas.
Vegas is building like 5 NBA-ready arenas or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane how many arenas they're going to have. So they're definitely getting a team. Seattle's definitely getting a team. They can move Memphis to the east, or one of those teams. And
New Orleans could relocate too.
Yeah,
because I've heard rumors about that.
Right.
I don't know where they'd relocate to. There's no obvious destination.
Mm-hmm. But
put them back in Vancouver, man.
This trade might go down as the thing that saved New Orleans.
This keeps the Pelicans in New Orleans, but Cronin had no leverage. Saves David Griffin's job, potentially keeps Yes, it keeps the Pelicans in New Orleans, but Cronin, despite having better offers on the table, which he kind of admitted at the press conference, had no leverage. Like, come on, man. I just don't understand why so many people just can't, like, see this. It's so... I don't know. I'll ramble about it. It's just such, like... I'm just baffled. I am just baffled. Like, I'm at a loss for words, as you can tell.
But yeah, I would be surprised if Jody sells the team before at least one of those 2 things happen, if not both.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, shoot, I'd be down for them to expand to 36. Screw it. That's probably a little too much, but the young talent in the young talent in the league, Eric, is very impressive right now. I think you could expand to 36 and it wouldn't be watered down.
Yeah, maybe. I think we'd have teams. I think if you do it too much, I think teams like the Lakers and big market teams have that much more of an advantage because of players wanting to go there. But I don't know.
Yeah, but it would have been more of a problem a few years ago when there was no parity, but there's enough parity now that I think... I don't know if it'll last, but...
for a while, yeah.
Yeah, 2. 6 would be dope, though. I mean, imagine... we got 16 games today for picks against the spread. Actually, I don't want 36 teams. Yeah. Never mind, but...
that'd
32
be 18
would be cool.
Possible.
Here's the thing, too. 32, expansion makes the play-in make a little bit more sense. I'm already down for the play-in because I like that it makes there an incentive to get top 4 for home court, top 2 for home court in the second round at least, and then top 6 so you avoid the play-in, right? And then you want 7th because you get the first play-in game at home. You know, you want 8th so that you get 2 chances to win to get in instead of 1. You want 9th so you at least have that first play-in game at home. And then, 10th if you're, trying to make it and just desperate and don't want to be in the lottery, right? Like the Lakers were this year. Mm-hmm. So it creates, incentive to get certain seedings, and it makes games, matter compared to just, you get 8, you're in the, you don't have home court, and you have to play the 1 seed, but if you can beat the 1 seed, you're in the same position as them, technically. So, outside of home court advantage. So I like that it creates tiers like that motivates teams to try and get to certain seed levels. Mm-hmm. And if you have 32 teams, and you're talking about a situation where 12 teams make it without having to deal with the play-in, okay? 8 teams deal with the play-in, and then 12 teams don't make the play-in at all. I think that's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep, I agree.
Anyway, anything else you want to say for the stream, Mr. Brandt?
Appreciate everyone for watching. Look for Tori's got some... He'll have a Ramble video on that. He'll have mock draft on Saturday.
Yep. I already created the graphics for it, so I copied ESPN's from last year for the graphics.
Self-proclaimed best video ever on Sunday. So
yeah, I wonder what that could be. Definitely the best video I've ever made. I hope you guys enjoy it. Leave a like; it helps us out. Thank you for watching the stream. Thank you to everybody who donated. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. Other than Chris and Liam, and who else? Caleb. Yeah. And then who's the first one? Sorry, I feel bad. I forget. This is why I don't normally just try and list off names.
It was Gray Hughes.
Gray Hughes, yes, of course it was Gray Hughes. Yeah. He always donated. Appreciate you guys for donating. Thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supporting the daily uploads. I'm gonna have that content for you guys consistently. I always talked about doing videos and whatnot, and I would always just kind of lose motivation. But I mean, it's a 10-day upload streak, not counting a holiday, not counting Easter. So 10 days in a row, and we'll have another one coming up tomorrow. If you've missed any player reviews or anything, I have a whole playlist. You can watch them through, binge them if you want. Those are videos that you can watch, a week, 2 weeks after they're posted. I dropped a video today looking at our preseason predictions from an episode of Blazers Uprise Live. So if you want to see what we predicted for standings and awards picks and whatnot, that was just kind of a fun little easy video to make. So some of the things are going to be, a little bit easy and maybe not, for everybody, but I want to upload every day so you guys know you got something. So, video coming tomorrow, Ramble video. I'll be talking about this article, and I will be going in on some trains of thought that I've seen on Twitter and whatnot. And then, mock draft, and then the best video ever on Sunday. Anything else?
No, have a good night, everyone. Our next live stream will be Monday, and just remember, throughout the offseason, Monday and Thursday, every Monday and Thursday, we'll have episodes.
Yep. 9:30 p.m. Pacific time. Anyway, that's a wrap for this episode of Blazers Uprise Live. Hope you have a good rest of your night. Until we catch you next, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.